what our society does to 19-year-old women or 18-year-old women, 19. We just lie to them all the time. What happens is that they place less emphasis on their career and way more emphasis, particularly on having a child. And the advantage to them is that things will go better for them, and the advantage to you is they'll be even more productive. What our society does to 19-year-old women or 18-year-old women, 19, we just lie to them all the time. The first lie is there's nothing more important than your career, more or less by definition. That's the first lie. The second lie is there will be nothing more important to you in your life than your career. So that's the second lie. And then the third lie is there should be nothing more important in your life than your career. And then implicit in that is the idea that children are a burden, and that the idea that women should have children is part of the oppressive patriarchy and should be resisted. And who are men to tell me what I can do with my body? And hey, fair enough, and et cetera, et cetera. I've worked in female-dominated occupations my entire life. I worked, for example, as a daycare worker way back when that was like 1980, something like that. And there were no men doing that, but I really liked kids. And I worked for social services in the childcare department. And then I've been working as a psychologist, either training or as a psychologist since then. And that's been a female-dominated enterprise increasingly as the years went by. I never experienced the world except as that. And so I've watched women progress through their professional careers at every level of attainment, from the lowest to the highest, and observed what happened. And relatively, I would say, bias-free, because I didn't know. And what I've seen is that as women progress towards their late 20s, there's a psychological transformation. And what happens is that they place less emphasis on their career and way more emphasis, particularly on having a child. And that really reaches a crisis point around 29 or 30 for the vast majority of women, and their attitude flips. And I've seen it flip very dramatically with many women. And I suppose the most convincing evidence of that, I worked with high-end lawyers in Toronto for about 10 years. I was part of an organization. We went to law firms, high-end law firms, and said, send us your most productive people, and we'll help them iron out whatever wrinkles there might still be in their life. And the advantage to them is that things will go better for them, and the advantage to you is they'll be even more productive. And there's a good management dictum, which is pay the most attention to your most productive people, because they're bringing in the bulk of your revenue disproportionately. And so I worked with men and women who were at the peak of their careers in a very difficult enterprise. And so these were women who were generally very attractive, put together physically, pretty stable psychologically, extremely conscientious, very smart, and high achieving from junior high all the way through high school, university, law school, onto the top firms, rocketing up through the ranks, full partnership by the time they were 29 or 30. And all the law firms, all the women bailed out, all of them. The law firms couldn't keep them. And I talked to the women a lot about this because I was very interested in it, because I knew the law firms were bending themselves over backwards and tying themselves into knots trying to retain these women, because why wouldn't they?